Hello and welcome to my kitchen. I'm Eric Gibbons and I'm going to be showing you how to make pizza. This is my homemade recipe. I'm a Jersey boy at heart, but I moved to North Carolina and it's really hard to find a good slice of pizza around here, so I've learned to make it myself. I've never shared this recipe with anyone before, but the reason I'm doing so is today was a special day. I had 1,000 subscribers finish up today, so I'm able to do some extra stuff on YouTube I wasn't able to do before. So this is my thank you to my subscribers. This video is going to be sponsored by firehousepublications.com. They do books for children in art education and for teachers. So this is one of their books, If Picasso Went on Vacation, and it focuses on landmarks and languages from all over the world. And since we're doing pizza, we're going to focus on Italy. So here's a painting of an Italian building with Starry Night kind of as the background. So it's done in the style of Vincent van Gogh, and it was painted by Elena Klimkova. The poem that goes along with it says, if Vincent van Gogh went on vacation, could this be a painting of his destination? Known for his love of a starry blue night, this Florence cathedral is done like he might. He painted in dashes of vivid bold color, swirling brushstrokes were done like no other. This is La Santa Maria del Fiore, known for its dome in all of its glory. If you go there to visit someday, learn a few words the Italian way. C is for yes, no is still no, and ciao is the way they said hello. And even here we got a globe that shows you where Italy is at. So if you like books like that, go to firehousepublications.com. And now to the recipe. For this one, you're going to need 2 teaspoons of dry active yeast, that's 10 grams. Sugar, 1 tablespoon, that's going to be 15 grams. 1 tablespoon of salt, that's going to be 20 grams. 4 tablespoons of olive oil, that's about 40 grams. And if you can get it, this is an optional ingredient, but it will help with the chew and the texture of the pizza, and that's a vital wheat gluten. And you need 4 tablespoons of that, and that's about 40 grams. You're also going to need 5 cups of flour. And the flour, that's about 600 grams for our European watchers. That's 535 grams of water. All right, so we're gonna combine these ingredients in a specific way. So first we're gonna do the yeast. That's gonna go in here, and we're gonna add our 2 1/4 cups of warm water. And then we're gonna add in our 1 tablespoon of sugar. This is going to help get the yeast going and alive, and the water should start to foam up in just a little bit. If it doesn't get any foam on it, that means your yeast is dead and you probably need to do some other yeast. So before you add your dry ingredients, you want to make sure that the yeast is definitely alive. So let me go get a bowl and we can mix up the dry ingredients. If I was smart, I would have had that out here already. So we're going to do our 5 cups of flour. That's 1 plus 4 more. Our 1 tablespoon of salt. Our 4 tablespoons of vital wheat gluten. And I'm going to use a whisk to go ahead and mix that up so that we can incorporate all of our ingredients. Now, I'm no means a cook, but I have learned to cook. And during this COVID-19 pandemic, I'm doing a lot more cooking at home. So if I get plenty of subscribers, let's say we get another 1,000 subscribers, and you guys comment on this so I know that you like the idea of recipes, then I'll do some more for you. All right, we'll set this stuff aside. And it looks like my yeast is active. I can see some little bits of foam coming up there on the top. So I'm going to add the oil at the end once I get these in here, and then I'm also going to need a spoon to sort of mix this stuff up. So again, I should have had that out before. Now I'm going to be using a stand mixer to mix everything up, but if you'd like to, you can just get your hands in there and mush it through. It'll work just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and take all of my flour and mixture of salt and all that good stuff and pop that in there. And I'm going to give this a rough mix. So I'm not kneading the bread yet, I'm just sort of incorporating this. And before I go too far, I'm going to go ahead and throw in that olive oil. Now, it may seem like a lot of olive oil, and this recipe is going to need some more later on. So I'm going to go ahead and mix this up, and the dough is going to be pretty sticky. So when you're mixing this, you'll just have to make sure you have really, really clean hands. Take off any jewelry because it'll get stuck in there. If you're going to use a stand mixer, I would mix it for 8 to 10 minutes. If you're going to use your hands, you're probably going to need to do about maybe 15 minutes by hand to get everything mixed in there really well. When you're done, the dough should be kind of pillowy feeling. It should be semi-sticky when you're done. It shouldn't stick like a blob of glue. That might mean that it's a little too wet and you can add a pinch more flour to it, but it is a very sticky dough. It's got a high moisture content. So you don't want to make it dry like some other bread doughs can be. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and mix this, and then I'm going to come back to you with the next part. All right, well, I finished kneading my dough in my stand mixer. So it's nice and pillowy and fully mixed. I went for about 8 minutes, and now I'm going to dump it out onto a surface. I'm going to go ahead and put a little flour there. And if I put a little flour on my hands, it won't be quite so sticky. Now this will be enough pizza, or enough dough, to make 4 personal pan pizzas, or 2 very large pizzas. So either way, this is a good bit of dough. I'm going to add a little bit more to the top. Just kind of pat it on there. I have this little cutter that I'm going to use, and I'm going to go about a little bit more than half actually. So we're going to go about that much. And what I'm doing is I'm separating out enough so I can have 1 large pizza and 2 smaller pizzas. So I'm going to go with that amount, and then let's see, I'm going to go ahead and cut this in half again. And I've got my containers here. So Tupperware or whatever kind of plastic container with a lid is going to be really important. So I'm going to put a glug in the bottom of each one. This may seem like a lot of oil, and it is, but you need it in order for it to taste good. All right, to finish off the dough, I'm going to be folding it underneath and rolling it into a little ball. So I'm just kind of pushing it underneath, and then the top gets nice and smooth. Just like that. I'm going to go ahead and pinch that shut. I'm going to put it into my oil and go all the way around and make sure I oil up the sides. And then I'm going to put it with that pinch side facing down. Right? To the next one. And if it is a little sticky, just add a little flour. And again, I'm going to roll it, everything under the bottom. So it's kind of like a mushroom head. I'm just kind of pushing everything into that center until it gets a smooth top on it. Again, pinch all that shut, put it in here, press around, get the sides nice and oiled up, and then flip it upside down so that little knotty part. Now, this dough will rise double and maybe a little bit more. If your lids are loose, it's going to pop those lids off, and then you're going to get oil on your surfaces. So you're going to want to watch that. Sometimes I'll actually wrap this up in plastic wrap just so if it does overflow, it's not exposed to air. Now, a lot of people feel like, well, I'm hungry now. I'm going to make pizza now and eat pizza tonight. But the trick to this is to let it age for about 3 or 4 days in the refrigerator to build up flavor. So by aging, it's going to build up extra flavors that you can't get from just fresh dough. And that's the trick to New Jersey, New York pizza, is that they generally let it age somewhere between 3 and 4 days. You can let it go for a week, it'll be fine. It'll have more of a tang like a sourdough bread. But if you eat it fresh, same day, it's gonna taste like Domino's or any other thing you can get everywhere else. But if you want something special, let it wait for 3 or 4 days in the fridge. We want it to rise slowly So again, it builds up those sourdough-like flavors. And then the next part of this video I'm going to show you is when we take it out, and you're going to see it looks like a completely different animal. It's going to be really stretchy and beautiful, and we can make a great pizza. I'm going to show you 2 ways to make pizza. We can do a thin crust, regular pizza style, or we can do a deep dish crust. And both of them are amazing. It depends on my mood and what it is that I want to have. So we're going to go ahead and cap these up. I'm going to put them in the fridge, and the next time you see me, it'll be 3 or 4 days later. All right, it's been a few days later, and now I'm ready to make my sauce. I'm actually not going to go through the whole process with you here, but I am going to show you how I do make the sauce. So you're going to need a 28-ounce can of San Marzano tomatoes. If you want really good, authentic taste, you need San Marzano tomatoes. You don't want the style, you want to get San Marzano. So these work pretty good. Now, there's 2 ways you can work with this recipe. You can fish the tomatoes out, and then you're just using the meat of the whole tomato, and then that will get mixed in to make your sauce. Or you can use the whole can. So if you want more sauce, you use the whole can, but then you'll have to cook it down for about 30 minutes. If you use just the tomatoes, then there's no need to cook it down. It's good to go right as it is. You're also going to need some tomato paste. I like the tubes because I can squeeze it a little bit and then cap it and use it again. But if you have a little can laying around and you want to use that, that's fine. So generally you're going to need 2 tablespoons of tomato paste if you're going to just fish out the tomatoes and make a small, intense batch. But if you're going to use the whole can, doubling your recipe, then you're going to want 4 tablespoons of the tomato sauce. You're going to need a 1/4 cup of olive oil, either way that you do it, 2 cloves of garlic, and 1 teaspoon each of salt, sugar, and oregano. And you need the dried oregano. That's the only way to get the New York, New Jersey flavor. For me, sometimes I'll throw in a little bit of onion powder as well, or just chop up a little onion, maybe about 2 or 3 tablespoons, and I throw that into my blender all together. So you take everything, put it in the blender. You don't need to add basil or anything else because you can put that on top of your pizza if you'd like. Blend it up. If you use the full can, then you will have to put it on the stove for about a half an hour and let it simmer and cook down. But I generally will fish out the tomatoes. 1 can, when you fish out the tomatoes, will make 4 pizzas, so that will be about this much. If you do the full can, you'll get twice that. And the nice thing is you can freeze this, so then when you finish up your pizzas and you're ready a couple weeks later, you can just take it out of the freezer and you're good to go. This is a great time saver. So I've been preheating my oven to 425. There's going to be a couple of ways of cooking things. If you're one of those fancy people and you have a stone that you can heat up in the oven for an hour, or a steel plate, that you want to do, I don't have none of that. But I do have like a pizza, tin that I can use, and I also have a cast iron pan. So I'm going to show you how to do the deep dish, and I'm going to show you how to do the flat one. Now you can use just a regular cookie sheet as well. It doesn't have to be this either. But I know that most people don't have an oven that's going to have a stone in it and all of that kind of stuff, and you don't need to do that in order to make a really good pizza. The last special ingredient that you must have is whole milk mozzarella. Now I think I got this at my local grocery store. I know Walmart will sell it, but you got to look very carefully. If you get the low moisture part skim, it will never, ever, ever taste right. It has to be whole milk mozzarella. It makes a world of the difference. If you do the part skim, it's just going to taste like that pizza you get out of a box and heat out of the oven. If you're going to go through all this work, you might as well get the right cheese. So it doesn't matter what brand. And if you can't get the shredded whole milk, you can actually use those cheese sticks that are peeled. You string cheese or whatever. As long as it says whole milk, you can chop that up and use it, and it'll give you a much better flavor. All right, so I'm going to get those the pizza dough ready, and then I'm going to show you. All right, so we're ready to make our pizzas, and I had my dough going for about 3 days in the fridge, and it's ready to come out. And you can see from the package that the dough is all risen all the way up to the top, and in the other one it overflowed a little bit, so I had some plastic wrap around that to kind of catch it. So the dough is going to be extra sticky. It's going to be extra fluffy. It looks like a totally different thing now. So I'm going to be doing a flat pizza and a pan pizza over here. First thing you're going to need to do is add more olive oil. You would think this is a ridiculous amount of oil. We just put it in the sauce, and now we're putting it on the plate. Pizza is all about the olive oil, I believe. So we're going to go ahead and smear this around. So I'm going to use a little brush. You can use your fingers, you can use a towel, and you want to go up the sides if you're going to be using cast iron. So this is a great way to get a deep dish. And then on the flat one, I'm just going to go ahead and spread that around. All right. So those two are ready. And then we're going to take the dough out, and you just pull from the corner. Be really careful. And you're not pressing it or anything. You're going to actually let the weight of the dough pull itself out. It's going to stretch by itself. I'm going to do this over here. And just use the weight of it to let it pull itself out. Give it a little bit of a stretch. And I'm trying not to press on the edges so I get a nice thick rim on my pizza. All right. And we're not worried about getting a perfectly round pizza. This isn't the kind of pizza you're going to throw over your head. We can go ahead and put that down. And now we can start to push it into the shape that you want it. Now, I don't use a pizza peel, you know, that wooden board they use to shove into the really hot oven. I don't have that. I don't want to buy that. I don't want to store that. So this is the way that I do this. Okay, so go ahead and lay that in there. Then we get my second one going. And if there are any dry bits, you want to pull those out because maybe it overflowed a little bit like mine did. Just means you have some really good active dough. Again. Pull it out from the corner. Just let the weight of it pull it down. And because I've got my smaller pan, I don't have to stretch it quite as much. Right, and I can put that in like that. All right, so there's another trick to getting a crispy pie. So one of them is going to be pre-cooking this for about 5 to 8 minutes in your hot oven. Now, if there's anything you want to stick to the crust, this is the time to do it. So if you want to add a little extra olive oil onto the crust going all the way around, that'll give it a real buttery sort of edge to it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I also like to add sesame seeds to my pizza. So this just adds a little bit of crunchiness, nuttiness going around, and it becomes like a little Italian bread. So that's kind of a nice little addition. Okay, I'm not necessarily going to do it to my pan pizza. And then if you want to add garlic salt or little garlic pieces or whatever, this is a good time to do that. So I'm going to put this one in the oven for 5 minutes. And then on the top of my stove, I'm going to go ahead and turn on one of my burners. And I'm going to start addressing this pie. So I've got a burner going. And we're going to actually cook this a little bit on top of the stove. And again, for about maybe 5 minutes, maybe less. We just want to see a little bit of bubbling coming out from underneath it, so we give it a little bit of a pre-cook in there. Now, the nice thing and the special thing about deep dish pizzas is you go right to the edge. So with a flat pizza, you want to leave a crust dry, but with this kind, you don't. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my cheese. Well, actually, I'm going to add in some sun-dried tomatoes, and I put those on anything that you're afraid will burn on top. You go ahead and put that underneath the cheese. Okay, so I'm going to put that under there. I don't want it to burn, but I do want onions to caramelize, so those will go on top. And then the same thing with the cheese. You go all the way to the edges, and that's where you'll get those little crispy bits as it hits the pan and the olive oil will keep it from sticking. Now, some people like to load it up so it looks like a blizzard was going on inside the pan. I think that's too much. It kind of overwhelms the flavor of everything. Now, this is also time that you could put in some hard cheeses like some parmesan or pecorino or something like that. You can put that in here as well. And then we're going to add some pepperoni to this one. Put one in the middle, make it look pretty. And I think we're good. Let me add those onions on here, just a little bit. Too much can sometimes be overwhelming. So it's really up to you what you want to put, your favorite toppings. That's what really matters. That's what you're going to put on top of your pizza. So that's going to be enough for me. And then I'm going to put this on my stove top for just 4 or 5 minutes until I see some bubbling around the edges, so I know it's starting to get a little cooked on the bottom of my cast iron pan. Now again, the traditional method is going to be with a 500 degree or even hotter oven and on a pizza stone or a pizza steel or something along those lines. But I find that, that's a real waste of energy. I don't have the equipment to do that, and I don't want to buy it. I don't want to invest in it. I get a really good result by doing it the way that I'm sharing with you here. So pre-cooking the flat pizza gets it started a little bit on the bottom, starts it getting crispy so that when it's finally finished in the oven, you know you're good to go. Generally, the pizzas will take about 10 minutes at 425 degrees. The deep dish pizza will generally take a little longer. That might be closer to almost 20 minutes. And the way you tell if your pizza is done, you just look at the top of it and see that some of the cheese has started to brown and blister. You don't want it to look black, but you definitely want it to look thoroughly cooked. And then you can pull it out and put it someplace to dry. The other thing you can do to get a crispy crust is take your pizza out and put it on a wire rack. And that's a great way to kind of let it cool down, and it allows some more moisture to come out. So I've got a wire rack that I have bought for myself. I can put my pizza on here to rest, but you can even take one of the oven racks out and set that to the side before you start cooking, and that can be your wire rack. So there's no need to go out and buy something special. You can use what it is that we have. All right, so I think my pizza in the oven is about ready to go. So I'm gonna get my glove on, and we're gonna take that out. And here we go. And you can see it's starting to cook there. So we're just getting it a start. So now I'm gonna put my sauce on. And it's really up to you how much sauce you like. And I like to bring the sauce pretty close to the edge. This will caramelize nicely. I can hear the cast iron starting to sizzle, so that's almost ready too. I'm gonna reach behind me and turn off the heat. So that's preset. And I'm gonna go ahead and throw that cast iron into the oven so it can get started going. Take a look at the clock, and I know that I need to finish that up at that time. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and put in some more of these sun-dried tomatoes. I'm gonna put in some basil underneath. Not too much or it gets overwhelming. Again, I'm putting it under so it doesn't burn. I'm actually going to use some ricotta, but I'll put that on top. So here's my whole milk, full fat mozzarella. Again, you put on as much as you like, but don't overwhelm it. Otherwise, you won't be able to taste all the other wonderful flavors. Okay. Put on some pepperoni. Put in some onions. Okay, and then I'm going to put some dollops of ricotta cheese, again, whole milk. Now, some people actually like a white pizza where they only use olive oil as their sauce, and then they use this mozzarella cheese, ricotta cheese, and then you can throw on some vegetables like broccoli and onions or whatever. So you don't have to use a tomato sauce to get a really good pizza, but definitely pre-cooking the dough will give you a wonderful result. Room in the middle here. All right, so this one is good to go. Put this in the oven and I will be back to you when they're all done. So there we go, Pan-demic pizza. Not too hard to do, and you can use the materials that you have laying right there at your home. You can go for deep dish, which is still sizzling, or you can go for a traditional flat pie. Either way sort of works. Thank you for my 1,000 first subscribers, and if I get another 1,000 subscribers, I'll do another video on how to make homemade sourdough bread start to finish. So I've learned how to do that. We've got lots of time on our hands during this pandemic, so you might as well make your own stuff and make it delicious. Thanks again for our sponsor, firehousepublications.com, where they have lots of wonderful books, art books for children and art teachers. So go ahead, I hope you like the video and you subscribe, and we'll see more from me later. Have a great day.